Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, you guys got what you wanted. Ron Rivera finally makes the decision to move on from place kicker Dustin Hopkins. And they had just re-signed Chris Blewitt to the practice squad yesterday. We talked about that. A couple of moves they had made. They also signed a linebacker and put him on the practice squad as well. They activate Chris Blewitt from the practice squad, release Dustin Hopkins, and moving forward, Chris Blewitt will be the place kicker for this football team for the foreseeable future. Now, don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to approach this the same way I approached the release of running back Peyton Barber in the preseason, which was I'm on board with whatever decision is made. And I like Jared Patterson. I think he brings something to the table, not only now, but into the future. But if this doesn't work, you're going to hear me bitching and complaining about it. So far, I don't think we've missed Peyton Barber a ton, but I do think we've missed Peyton Barber. Make no mistake about it. There are situations that I felt like if Peyton Barber were on this roster, that they would just give him the football. They wouldn't think twice about it. Case in point, Sunday against the Chiefs, 3rd and 2. There's no, bubble screen. How many times have we thrown that damn bubble screen, that slot screen to Hump on a 3rd down and short instead of just running the bitch? Okay? I think that's a byproduct of them just not trusting any of the running backs we have to pick up 2 yards on a physical downhill run when they won't take no for an answer. Last year, in 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2, we knew what time it was. Get out your barber kit. Get out the scissors. Get out the clippers. You knew what time it was. It was barber time. Sit down in the chair. Get this trim. Get this edge up. That's not the case this year. So I do think we miss him, but it's not enough for me to feel like, oh my God. We haven't had a failed 4th and 1 in a critical situation and lost the game because of it, but I could see it happening. I don't love any of the backs that we have in short yardage situations, not a single one, not even Antonio Gibson. But that said, I'm going to ride with this thing, see how it goes, because it's not like I was defending Dustin Hopkins and I wanted him here, okay? That ship had sailed a long time ago. I was a big Dustin Hopkins defender about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. But just like with Graham Gano, once upon a time, there's only so much defending I can do. I know a talented kicker when I see one. I said the same thing about Graham Gano. I said, he's going to continue to kick in this league. He can kick the football. The problem is at some point, you have to actually make kicks for a team to believe in you and continue to employ you. For some reason, Washington was fixated on keeping Dustin Hopkins year after year after year. Did you guys know that Dustin Hopkins had been here 7 years? I don't think a lot of you understood how long he had been here. It didn't dawn on me until they didn't bring in competition this summer that he had been here this long, because that's when I went digging and probing, like, what the hell is going on here? Like, why is there no other kicker in camp with this guy? He wasn't great last year, but then Ron was like, well, did you see how he finished up the season? He finished up 14 of 15, I think, or 13 of 13 or whatever. He finished up the season super hot, and they felt like, okay, this guy, we can trust him. But at the end of the day, I thought there should have been some competition. Like Chris Blewitt could have been in camp this entire time and could have had an opportunity to win the job, but they didn't decide to go that route. Either way, Dustin Hopkins is a really solid NFL kicker, and he's going to find work somewhere else. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't find work this week. Next Tuesday, which is tryouts day in the NFL, I surmise he'll end up on someone's practice squad at a bare minimum, if not outright getting the job from someone. They'll release the kicker they currently have and say, hey, you're our new kicker, because he's got a leg. He's got the NFL stats and chops to prove it and back up his worthiness to be in this league. But at the end of the day, he's been inconsistent at best in crucial situations. I don't think the inconsistency is what bothers me, because kickers are going to miss kicks. You look around the league, kickers are missing kicks. Unless your name is, Justin Tucker, you're missing kicks. Mason Crosby has been one of the most consistent kickers over the last decade plus. The guy missed like 5 field goals in one game against the Cincinnati Bengals and almost cost his team. But ultimately, he ended up having to kick the game-winning field goal after missing like 5 times. Bottom line is, kickers are going to miss. And I've seen more missed kicks, it seems like, in the last 2 years than I have in previous years. But it doesn't matter. It's when you miss those kicks. And it'd be one thing if Dustin Hopkins missed an obscure kick in the first quarter. Those hurt too. No kick is a kick that is okay to miss. Just like there's never a good time for a turnover. Some turnovers hurt less than others. I'll give you an example. Right before halftime, no time left on the clock. You're running the football. You're at midfield. I remember Gibson did this a year ago against the Cleveland Browns. He's running towards out of bounds. Ball gets punched free. I don't know if it ended up going out of bounds or if it just stayed right by the sidelines. Either way, I think the Browns either dove on it or it went out of bounds. If that ball had been recovered by the Browns and we touched them down, the half's over. If you're going to turn it over, that's the time to turn it over. You're going to throw a Hail Mary, it gets picked off, and that guy gets tackled or he falls on the ground. Okay, that's the time to have a turnover. There's really no right time or no convenient time for a turnover. But if you're going to have one, that's the time. If you're going to miss a kick, you want to kick a 60-yard kick right before halftime. We saw that with the Arizona Cardinals. They missed and they got returned for a touchdown. But you get my point. There are certain times where you're like, okay, he missed whatever. It's hard to really wrap your brain around missing kicks because you don't know what kind of momentum is gained or lost by making or missing a kick. But it seems like every time he misses a kick, it's a clear punch in the gut and momentum is dead at that moment. See the game on Sunday. You're up 13-10. You got all the momentum. He misses the kick. The Chiefs go right down the field, score a touchdown. And from that point forward, they controlled and dominated the game, scored 21 unanswered points, and win going away after trailing 13-10. He makes the kick. I'm not saying they don't still score 21 points in a row, okay? And we don't lose the game 31-16. But I explained this on the podcast earlier. If he makes that kick, or I might have explained this on Studs and Duds. And if you have access to that, that's up and available. So check that out. But if he makes the kick and then the Chiefs go down and score and kick the extra point, it's 17-16. If the offense did what it's been doing the last 2 weeks and goes 3 and out, gives it right back to the Chiefs and they score again, just like they did in the game, and they score another touchdown, well, guess what? It's an 8-point game. You don't feel as desperate. Down 8 versus down 2 scores at 11, 24-13. If it's 24-16, you're thinking to yourself, hey, we get a drive here. We tie this thing up with a 2-point conversion. And I remember saying this clear as day in the MOBB when we got down 17-13. I said, we need a response from the offense right now. If we don't get it, this game is over. And I remember one of the members of the MOBB saying, man, Louie, you quitting already? You got to have some faith, man. Something to that effect. And I'm like, dude, listen to me. I've watched this team for 30 years, okay? I know when it's over. I know with these, I tell them in the MOBB all the time, hey, this game's not over. We're going to win this game. I told them in Atlanta when we were down by 9 and we were down double figures, I said, we're going to win this game. I don't like how some of the things that are happening and transpiring are happening, but we're going to still win this game because I knew we were capable of beating the Falcons. This is a game that I didn't expect us to even be in. So the fact that we were even in the game was a shock to me at halftime, and it took 3 turnovers to have us with a 3-point lead at halftime. That said, the Chiefs had finally caught us, and you know what it is, even leaving. Well, they hadn't gotten even. There was a chance. Montez Sweat decided he wanted to be a full yard offsides. There was a chance to be even at 13. They still probably would have left us. However, once they got past us, oh, it was dead unless we responded right then and there. And we didn't. I said, oh, yes, it's done. So that killed the momentum in that game. And we can, and this is the problem with Dustin Hopkins. And I think Dustin Hopkins has been really good here in Washington. And I enjoyed his 7 years here. I know a lot of you didn't. I did. But here's the problem with Dustin Hopkins. We can recall some of the misses, and they're big misses. Misses that cripple you, misses that end games, misses that don't allow you to proceed to bonus football. The biggest miss that comes to mind is the one over in London. I'll never forget it because that's a season that should have resulted in another postseason trip. And, we talk about certain things, haven't done this since 1991, haven't done this since 1992, haven't done this since 1991. You get tired and sick and tired of saying that shit. And one of the things we could have been able to end at that moment, if he makes that kick, is, hey, haven't had back-to-back postseason seasons, postseason trips since 1991, 1992. Gibbs 1.0. Would have loved to have said, to hell with that. Went to the postseason in 15 and 16. Well, he didn't hold up his end of the bargain against Detroit. Had a big miss in that game. And obviously, Kirk has the read option touchdown run late. If the defense just could get a stop with 40-something seconds left, we probably win that game. But he missed a kick in that game. And also, Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones fumbled in that game too. Dirty bastard. Anyway, I digress. You make a kick in that game, maybe we win that game. You missed a couple of kicks on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys that year in a really good football game. Jordan Reed went apeshit in that game, but it wasn't enough. You make those kicks, who knows what happens in that ball game, but he didn't. And then, of course, the London game was the biggest miss of them all. You think about this year. He missed that Giants kick. I can't get that out of my head, knowing that if he didn't get a mulligan, we lose that game. Right now, we're 1-5. Instead of the Giants being 1-5, we're 1-5 if he does. And who knows? If he misses that kick, we might be 0-6, because who knows if we have the confidence to then beat the Falcons 2 weeks later. The only reason you have that confidence is because you won the game the 2 weeks prior. So, I don't know, man. It's pretty tough. Almost cost us the Atlanta Falcons game with 2 missed extra points. I can't, and remember, our special teams coach, Ben Kotwika, not Ben Kotwika, that's our old special teams coach. Shucks. Can't think of our new our special teams coach. He's not new. He's been here a couple of years. Either way, he talked about how he missed in a controlled environment. I said the same thing the day prior on overtime. Like, the part that gets me upset is, it's one thing if it's swirling winds, you're outside, you don't know what the wind's doing, it takes the ball, it does something funky to it. It happens. And we see it all the time. Great example is the Cincinnati game with the Packers. The rookie kicker, Evan McPherson, kicks it right down Broad Street. Nate Kazar, thank you, Bentley Goodwin. Nate Kazar. So it's one thing, he kicked it right down Broad Street. And he thought it was good. He's jumping up. He jumps on the holder, and the long snapper comes over. They're hugging. They think they won the game because it was going right down the middle. And then the wind got a hold of that thing and took it and hit the upright, and it was no good. And they didn't know it. They were celebrating. He didn't know until the holder put him down, and he looks behind him, and a Packer player is like, "Yeah, let's go!" And he sees Aaron Rodgers and company coming on the field. He's like, "What the hell is going on?" And he looks up. He's pointing at the upright like, it was going straight down the middle. What happened? That wasn't the case, bro. You're in a controlled environment in a dome with no wind, no weather conditions, and he's missing extra points. Unacceptable. So, yeah, it probably was time to go. I just don't know if I would have done it right now. But what do you have to lose, right? If it doesn't work, I'm going to say this once more, and then we're going to move on. If it doesn't work, all of you who said it can't get any worse, because it can. Dustin Hopkins was 12 of 14 on field goals and 11 of 13 on extra points. Yes, it can get worse. And if it does, all of y'all will be seeing me in my office. Shut the door. It's not going to be pretty, and it's going to be loud. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. I hope Chris Blewitt is the answer, and we can just move on. And somebody sent me a video today of Chris Blewitt kicking field goals. And the longest one he kicked on the video was from 56, and he made it. That's great. And it was windy. You could hear the wind on the person recording the video. That's fine. And I said to the person that sent it to me, hey, that's great. I'm glad to see him kicking against air and making them. That's what he's supposed to do. But let's see him do that with game pressure. That's what I want to see. It's easy to go out there and kick when it's controlled. You know, there's no one rushing at you. The score doesn't matter. There is no score. There's no game pressure. It's easy to go out there and drill it from. And he was doing it in like 3-yard increments, and then he started going up a little bit more in like 8-yard increments. It's cool to do that. cool to drill it from 48 and from 51 and from 56 and all. That's all great, fine and dandy. Let's see you do that when it's 13-10 in the third quarter of a game against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and we send you out there for a 53-yarder. Let's see you do it then. All right, you got Aaron Rodgers and company, and you got a chance to send the game to overtime in the fourth quarter with 4 seconds left from 51 yards out at Lambeau. Let's see you do it then. And if you can do it then you'll win me over. If you can do it in the third quarter from 54 instead of Ron deciding, let's go for 4th and 8. Well, that's bullshit, Ron. 4th and 8. Okay. I didn't like it at 3rd and 8. I really don't like it at 4th and 8. Well, now he can trust his kicker to go out there, or at least he thinks he can. Let's see if he does, what Ron brought him here to do. But we'll see. It's one thing to kick against the air with no pressure, no game pressure. Another thing to do it when everybody's counting on you. So we'll see what happens there. But in any event, let's transition to our next segment. And in other news, and the big news everyone wants to talk about is Washington and them being rumored to be interested in Tua Tagovailoa. So let me start by saying this. I just heard it when I was on the podcast. It was brought to my attention by like 4 or 5 different Washington fans who were like, yo, Washington's, including my guy JP and Big Money Sonny and a few others, were like, yo, did you hear? Washington is supposed to be, engaged in trade talks with the Texans and Dolphins surrounding, Deshaun Watson going to Miami, the Texans getting a bunch of picks, from both teams, and Washington getting Tua Tagovailoa out of the mix. And I said, I don't believe it. I don't see that taking place. I don't even see the Deshaun Watson aspect of this trade taking place because there's just so many different layers to this. And there's a lot of nuance to this situation because even though the NFL hasn't stepped in and done anything to Deshaun Watson yet, is really because they don't need to, because they know he's not going to play for the Texans and the Texans aren't going to put him on the field. So they don't have to do anything at this very moment. But if he gets traded, it looks bad if the Dolphins are like, hey, bro, we need you to suit up next week. They're on a bye week. So this would be the time to do it. Trade deadline's coming up. If that's why the talks have intensified, because they've got a chance to get him in their system, get him a week of practice, and then get him out there on the football field. But the NFL, I think, would then be obligated to then step in and say, hey, we're going to put him on the commissioner, the exempt list, and he can't play football. Put him on the commissioner's list, and that's all she wrote. Because I just don't know if that's a good look for the league to have this guy out here amid allegations and things of that nature playing football. So that's when I think they would step in. So if you're the Dolphins, what good does it do to trade for him right now? He's not going to probably be able to play for you. But that said, if they do trade for him, I've heard that the Texans don't want Tua back in return. They would just want the draft capital. That's what they're looking for. They're looking to rebuild their team. So they're not looking to take on, because if they take Tua, then that's going to lessen the amount of draft capital they get in return for Deshaun Watson. And Washington's angle is, look, and this is how I feel. If you want to know personally, before we get to I can't say anything is factual about the situation, but before we get to the things that we've heard, I'll just say this. This is my opinion on the situation. Tua Tagovailoa, despite what you've heard, is not a bad quarterback. All right. There's a lot of people ready to jump to conclusions on this kid. I think he can play. I think that he's played well when given the opportunity. There have been some games where he stunk. Okay. What young quarterback hasn't had games where he stunk? Joe Burrow had a game this season where he's thrown 3 interceptions. Like, what young quarterback hasn't had games where he stunk? Zach Wilson looks awful right now. Okay. He's a rookie. What do you expect? Same thing for Tua Tagovailoa. And the only difference was the Dolphins were winning. And so they were yo-yoing quarterbacks in and out. And they kept going back to Fitzpatrick. And yes, Tua has an injury issue. And that's my biggest problem with him. That was my problem coming out of Alabama, was that I don't know if he can stay healthy. He's been fragile. And that's the problem. And this year he's already dealing with fractured ribs. That's been my issue with Tua all along. Not the talent, not his size, not any of that nonsense. But just, can he stay healthy? If he's healthy, I like him. I thought he played well against Jacksonville over in London. Sans for 1 interception, I thought he played extremely well and gave them a chance in that football game. I would do it in a heartbeat if I were Washington. I don't know if they're interested. And JP Finley said that he talked to some people close to the situation that are sources that he goes to, that he trusts. And he says he got a hard no. Like, they're not interested. This is not a thing. Everything is BS, according to JP Finley's sources. So, and I mean, what are you supposed to say? Just like the Dolphins, they on their end, the Texans reporter, longtime Houston Chronicle reporter, has come out and said, this thing is heating up, hot and heavy, whereas the Dolphins, and they're like, nah, we ain't there's no validity to this. What are the Dolphins supposed to say? Yeah, we're in active discussions right now trying to acquire Deshaun Watson. Who's going to say that? Same with Washington. If they were really interested, what are they supposed to say? They got a game on Sunday. They don't have time to be engaging in this foolishness. You just say, no, we're not interested in that. We're good. We got Taylor Heinicke. We're going to move forward with that. And we worried about Green Bay this week. But if they're really interested, you're not going to tell anybody that you're interested. You're going to keep your mouth closed, and you're going to continue to try to work through that process of getting a deal done. I'm just going to say this, and I said it on the podcast. I'm going to regurgitate it again, because you guys know how I feel about the quarterback class coming into the NFL in 2022. Potentially, it's not strong, and Tua's better than every single one of those quarterbacks, hands down, not even close. And I take him 10 times out of 10 over any guy coming out in the draft this year, and I said it, and I mean it. That said, he does have an injury history that has to be considered. That was part of the reason I wasn't interested in him in 2020 when he came out in the draft last year. Because even though he was available and even though we needed a quarterback, Chase Young was the pick. Why? Because I didn't want anybody but Joe Burrow other than Chase Young, because Joe Burrow, it was coming off of a ridiculous season, had all the tools, and he was healthy. I couldn't say the same about Tua. And in terms of Justin Herbert, he just didn't seem like a guy that was a leader of men, a guy that could take and rally the troops and be consistent. Saw flashes from Justin Herbert, but not consistently at Oregon, the things that we've seen in the NFL. And he had the tools to do it. He was big, strong arm, athletic. He had everything you were looking for. I just wasn't sure he had everything up here from a leadership standpoint, not from a mental he can't process what the defense is doing standpoint, but just from a leadership standpoint. I thought he was meek. I thought he had the same qualities as Marcus Mariota, one of these guys that, kind of aloof and nice guy, not sure if he's really a leader of men, but that hasn't been proven to be the case in the NFL, and his play has been stellar. But that said, I would take Tua over any of these guys, but I don't think it's happening. So I'm not going to really harp on it too much. I don't expect it to happen, but it's something to, to monitor. When you're in the midst of a 2-4 stretch and looks like the season's going in the wrong direction and your fans know you need a quarterback, they're going to gobble this stuff up. You know how Washington fans are. I don't think anything's happening. And if I were you, I wouldn't get too enthralled with this. I don't think anything's going to come of it. I don't even think Watson's going to be traded, but if he is, I don't think we're going to be involved in any way, shape, or form. But if we are, I'd be excited because I like Tua. I think he can play, and if he can stay healthy, there's something there. I'm just going to leave it at that. So let's transition to week 7 against the Packers. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because we'll do that tomorrow. But there was practice today amid all of the rumors and Dustin Hopkins being released and Chris Blewitt being promoted to the active roster. There was so much going on today. People forgot there was actually practice today. So there is an injury report. Let's take a look at that real quick. It's not pretty, but it hasn't been pretty for the last 2 weeks. It continues to be a problem. Let's take a look at the injury report. So Washington has 12 players on the injury report yet again. I think it's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 this week. So less than last week, which is a good thing. A new addition to the injury report is William Jackson III. Didn't know he had an injury, but doesn't seem serious. He was limited today. If it was serious, he wouldn't have practiced at all today. So feeling pretty confident that all of the guys that were limited in practice today are going to play on Sunday. So that's good, but there's a lot of DNPs up here. Last week, I think there were 12 guys on this thing, but 5 of the 12 were limited all week. And so you knew those guys were going to play eventually. We only got 3 limiteds and 9 DMPs on Wednesday. Now, one of them is a non-injury related, miss from practice, and that's Charles Leno Jr. And they gave him rest last week. I'd like to think that there are other guys that are veterans on the team that could use rest, but they've been giving Leno Jr. rest the last couple of weeks on Wednesday. So that's not a big deal. So really this injury report is more like 10 guys when you take Charles Leno Jr. out of the mix. And there's some guys that didn't play last week that I'm not sure they're going to play this week, like Sam Cosmi dealing with the ankle injury he sustained against the Saints last week, the week before last, I should say. Antonio Gibson's shin is very, troublesome at this point. Before we were like, hey, he's going to be all right. He's going to keep fighting through this thing until the bye week where he'll get some rest and he'll be all right. The man had to leave the game and did not return in the second half at one point, and he had an MRI, and we don't know the results of that MRI, but apparently they weren't that, they were either positive, not positive in terms of something being bad, but the report was a good one. Let's just call it that. It's hard when you talk about MRIs and negatives and positives, but he may not be able to go. He's a guy worth watching this week. And, past couple of weeks, I'm like, oh, he's going to play. He'll be fine. This week, I think is definitely worth watching him to see what his situation is in practice. Terry McLaurin with the hamstring, I think they're just going to be, precautious like they were last week. It's a precautionary measure. I think he'll play on Sunday. Curtis Samuel with the groin is interesting. You know how I feel. My take on it is that you don't see him until after the bye. That's just how I would operate with him. But they're so desperate right now. They want to win. They don't want to fall to 2-5. Which is going to happen whether they want it to or not. And they want to give themselves the best chance, and putting Curtis Samuel on the field gives you the best chance. But if he's not healthy, then what difference does it make? All you're doing is delaying him from being 100% and really being able to help this team. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him this week. Brandon Sheriff has been out since the Atlanta Falcons game. So you're talking week 4. Didn't play in week 5. Didn't play in week 6. He may not play in week 7 either. I don't think he will. Honestly, I don't know why they didn't just put him on IR, because I didn't see any way he'd be back before week 8 on Halloween against the Broncos. And if I'm Washington, why not just put the guy on IR and have him come back after the bye week? I would do the same thing with Curtis Samuel. Just put him on IR, have the guy come back after the bye week. And that's when I would get my team back. I would get Brandon Sheriff back. I would get Sam Cosmi back after the bye. I would get Curtis Samuel back after the bye. I would get Logan Thomas back after the bye. I would really become a healthy team on a mission, essentially, after that bye week. But I don't think that's their mindset. Their mindset is, if you can play, we need you out here because this ship is sinking fast, and we're trying to patch up all of these holes that give us a chance to stay afloat. So we'll see what happens with him. Ricky Seals-Jones, quad injury. I do remember him getting nicked up in the game on Sunday. I believe he stayed down for a little while. I was like, oh, Lord, we can't afford another tight end to go down. We're so thin there already. But I think he's going to be fine with that quad. We'll see. Cam Sims, hamstring. I think he's going to play this week. That's just my opinion. I think we see him in some capacity practice. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, he's not playing again. But I think he's going to practice tomorrow on a limited basis. We'll see about Cam Sims. Hamstrings are tricky. You guys know that. So it's rough. 8 guys that could potentially be out. I think of the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 8 guys that I think should be in serious consideration for missing the game. Those 8 are Cosmi, Gibson, Samuel, Sheriff, Ricky Seals-Jones, and Sims. Those are the 8 guys that I think are legitimately, or is it 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. So 6 out of the 11 guys I think are legitimate concerns. Of those 6, I think maybe 1 or 2 of them play. Ricky Seals-Jones, I think, is going to play. So we could be out without about 5 or 6 guys this week. Just interesting to see what they decide to do. As far as the Packers are concerned, no real impact players on this list that I think are going to miss. Now, Preston Smith and his oblique, he's been out for a while. He could be out again. That would be helpful. They're already without Zadarius Smith, so their two best pass rushers could be out. Darnell Savage is an impactful safety with a concussion. Don't know when that concussion was sustained. If it was sustained this past week, then he's going to probably be out in this game. That'll be another good guy to have out for them. But those three guys are the only ones I'm really concerned with. Dennis Kelly as a tackle, he might be their starting tackle because they got him from the Tennessee Titans, and Dennis Kelly is a quality backup in this league, but I don't know if they had him starting or not. John Myers at center, I think that's a backup role he's playing. He could be their starting center because they moved on from their starting center a couple of years ago in free agency. So Myers might be their starting center. Either way, this is a list of guys that the Packers could use, but they can function without every single one of them. You know, it's not like the Chiefs last week with Chris Jones where I got all excited about, hey, if this guy misses, that's huge for us. If any of those guys miss, well, okay, that's cool. But there are other guys that can step in and do the job. So we'll see what happens with the Packers and their list. Kevin King and Equanimous St. Brown both look like they're going to play. Both were participants today. We'll keep an eye on the rest of these guys and see what turns out of the situation. So we heard from Ron. We heard from Heinicke. We heard from Chris Blewitt all at the podium today. Nothing major was gleaned from Blewitt. I think that Heinicke said some interesting things. Among them, I got to play my game. What did I say on Monday? I said, I need the most authentic version of Taylor Heinicke. I don't think we're getting it right now. I think he wanted to prove that he could throw from the pocket. He wanted to be, analytical and diagnose things and make the perfect read, he said. And I said all of those things on Monday. Like, you're not being the best version of yourself because you're not allowing the game to come to you. You're trying to force the game instead of letting things come to you and you just react naturally to whatever happens. Don't like what you see? First of all, he's missing shit. I'm going to break that down on film for you guys. For those of you eligible, you're going to have some film to watch tomorrow. There's a couple of plays I've already gotten through where I'm just like, oh my God, I want to rake my eyes out. And it's the same shit Kurt Warner was talking about early in the season that I dismissed because I didn't want to hear it because we won the game and we scored 30 points against the Giants. But he's like, yo, he's missing shit. And yeah, you won the game, but eventually you're not going to score 30. And now that we're only scoring 13 and he's missing shit, I got a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with it when we were scoring 30. Like, hey, Kurt Warner, shut up. We scored 30. He took us on the game-winning drive. Leave him alone. And he's like, okay. But what happens when you're scoring 13 and you're not having those explosive plays and he's missing shit and you could be scoring 30, but you're instead scoring 13? Don't come crying to me now. That's kind of where we are right now. So I think he needs to play with the reckless abandon that we fell in love with against Tampa Bay, that we saw against the Atlanta Falcons, that we saw a little bit of against the Saints. I didn't think enough of it against the Saints, but we saw, I thought he was at his best against the Falcons. He was off schedule. He was throwing shit up, prayers, whatever you want to call it. That's Taylor Heinicke. When I watched him at ODU, that's what I saw. Okay. Not this guy that wants to stand in the pocket, wait till shit crumbles. Now he's trying to scramble out. Now he's got to throw it away or he's throwing it down at somebody's feet when he could have ran already. That's not the guy I fell in love with. So I need him to get his act together. And he pretty much said, I just got to be me. I got to be the best version of me. You think? I said that already. You got to be your authentic self. You're not doing that right now. Hopefully he gets back to that. And maybe him playing, against Green Bay, his hometown, well, his childhood team. He didn't grow up in Green Bay, but it is his childhood team. Maybe same thing. We'll get the same energy out of him that we did when he went home to his hometown of Atlanta to play and played his best game of his career in the NFL against the Falcons. We'll see. Ron talked about Landon Collins and wanting Landon Collins to be a linebacker. That was the most profound thing he said at the presser. He gave reasons as to why it was time to move on from Dustin Hopkins. He didn't really say anything, noteworthy on that front. Just, thanked Dustin for his service and said, hey, he'll kick in this league again somewhere else. And we just thought it was time. And he said, it's on me. It was my decision, and I got to live with it. So I'm glad he knows that, because if it doesn't work, I'm coming down on his ass hard and heavy. That said, he said that I had a conversation with Landon last week. I had a conversation with Landon this week, and I said, you're best served in this defense coming downhill as a linebacker. That's where we need you. That's what we think you are. And that's going to allow us to put, he didn't say this, but that's essentially what he's saying, is that's going to allow us to get Cam Curl on the field like we did against the Chiefs for every single defensive snap, because we're not taking Bobby McCain off the field because he's the only true free safety that we have. So we're keeping Bobby McCain on the field. We want you to be on the field as well. We think you should be a linebacker, which is what every fan said this offseason, and Landon simply wasn't open to that idea. Now, all of a sudden, you get in the season, shit happens. Now he's open to it, I guess. But sounds like Landon Collins is going to be playing a lot more linebacker. He's been already playing closer to the line of scrimmage already anyway. Now it just becomes a little bit more of a definitive thing in a more defined role. And I think he can actually flourish in that role. We'll see. He's got to take on the mentality, though, of flying downhill, taking on guards. And that's not easy to do at his weight, but I think he can trigger and come downhill and be a physical force in the box. That's when he's at his best. I think they need to blitz him a little bit more. That's something else he does really well. I'd like to see them get creative with Landon Collins. Now that he is signing up for the role of linebacker, I'd like to see them get, aggressive with him. Blitz him a bit. Drop him into some coverages. Make it look like a blitz. Have him drop out, read in key quarterbacks' eyes, see if he can't make some plays underneath. That's when he's at his best. So that was encouraging to hear Ron say that. Ron talked about earlier in the week wanting to make some changes. Well, that's 2 changes already made. We'll see. He said no more changes are coming, in the near future right now. But those are 2 changes that seems like the team is going to make, and they feel comfortable and confident in making them. So a lot of things came out of Washington today, but we're going to transition now to social media maneuvers. And this is when you guys take over the show. So we'll get to all of your comments, and we will start with a brand new member to the MOBB, Leonard Mohammed. Stand up, Leonard. You are now officially in the building as a brand new member of the MOBB. Welcome aboard, Leonard. Glad to have you, Mob. You know what to do. Show Leonard Mohammed some love. Welcome aboard to the MOBB. You won't be sorry. Glad to have you. Looking forward to chopping it up with you along with the rest of the mob. Welcome to the squad, Leonard Mohammed. All right. Let's see what else we got. Any more super chats? Yep, we got one here from King of the North. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, after watching Seattle Pitt and Tennessee Buffalo, I feel like we have a semi-pro team. The hitting, the intensity, the effort, the desire to win is so much higher with other teams. Am I wrong? What's the deal? Okay, so let me speak to that. So the Seattle and Pittsburgh game was really physical and intense. I will grant you that. I haven't seen that level of intensity from this team this year at any point. Last year's team, I thought, like, played with that kind of intensity every week. When we were hitting last year, we were flying to the football, we were rallying. I told you that was one of my favorite things about last year's team, is that I knew they weren't going to quit. I knew they were going to be physical. And no matter how many points we were down, I always felt like we had a chance. Why? Because I knew this team was going to play hard. I don't always feel that way this year. I feel like part of the reason that this team has struggled in some situations is because they're lacking confidence, number one. They don't have the swag that they had last year. Even when we were losing, this was a swagged out bunch that felt like at any moment we could flip the switch and turn it up and have a chance. I don't feel that way with this team this season. That said, one of the things that irked me early in the season is I just didn't see the juice from this defense, meaning I didn't see 11 hats rallying to the football. Last year, I mean, there were so many hustle plays. And I'm not saying that Chase Young and Montez Sweat and company aren't hustling anymore, but there were so many examples of guys just going above and beyond the call of duty. I always talk about that Montez Sweat hawking down of rookie running back Cam Akers on a long run. We're getting our brains bashed in. It's raining. It's a yucky day. This game's over. He didn't have to do this, but Montez Sweat said, no. This is what I get paid to do. And I'm going to track this dude down. And it was impressive to finally see that 4.41 speed we saw at the combine on full display as he hawked down Cam Akers and escorted him out of bounds. Well, Chase Young, countless times he would retrace his steps on a screen and haul ass to the football, even though he knew he wasn't going to get there to make the tackle. He didn't care. Good things happen when you find yourself around the ball. A lot of times guys say, oh, they got it. I don't need to go. And then the ball comes out. Well, if you would have been busting your ass getting there, you might have recovered the fumble. Instead, the other team recovered the fumble because they were hustling. And I just don't see that from us this year. I just see a group that when things start to go bad, they snowball. We start to say, woe is me. Here we go again. Just like usual, we're blowing it. And there's no resolve. There's no fight. With Tennessee and Buffalo, they're just way more talented than us, period. Now, Tennessee, not so much. I think their defense is they got dogs on defense. Even though their defense was giving it up, their secondary is really compromised with all the injuries. But that said, they were flying around. And offensively, I don't think they have more talent than us. They got Julio and they got A.J. Brown and they got Derrick Henry. I don't think that means they got more talent than us. I think at the receiver position, they got more talent than us with just Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. Yeah, hands up. You got me. They don't have more talent at the tight end position. They don't have more talent on the offensive line. And they got Tannehill, better quarterback than what we have, and they got a better running back than we have, and Derrick Henry. But I just know this. They know who they are, and I think that's the biggest thing that you notice with a lot of these teams is they know who they are. They have an identity. And I spoke to this, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, or maybe it was last week, or maybe it was overtime. I said, we lack an identity. We don't know who we are. Scott Turner has no idea what he wants to do. He doesn't know. Week one, I thought, okay, came out, ran it against the Chargers. He went out of his way to run the football. But it doesn't matter how much success we're having on the ground. Scott Turner wants to throw the football. I've mentioned this to you guys before, and it was evident again. In past weeks, we've been down, and maybe you got to get away from the run a little bit because you're trailing and you need to come back. I understand that. We were up in the game against the Chiefs, and we were killing them on the ground. Absolutely killing them. J.D. McKissick ended up with 8 carries for 45 yards, and Antonio Gibson had 10 carries for 44 yards. So between the two backs, you've got 18 carries for 99 yards, which equals out to about 4.5 yards per pop. Why the hell are we throwing the football at 3rd and 2 and we're getting 4.5 per pop? Just that there's a disconnect there for me that I don't quite understand. But maybe it's not for me to understand. The bottom line is those teams you mentioned have an identity. The Steelers, I think, are still going through a semi-identity crisis on offense, but they know who they are on defense. They most certainly do. Tennessee knows who they are on offense. So does Buffalo. Buffalo has no problems throwing it 45 times and only running it 12 because they know who they are. Hey, our bread is buttered with number 17. As he goes, we go. I don't blame him because he's a hell of a football player. We don't have that. Yet we still don't have an identity. Are we a running team? Are we a passing team? Are we balanced? I can't tell you that we're balanced. I don't feel like we run it nearly enough. And again, I'm not one of these guys that when shit goes wrong, we should have run it more. I'm not that guy. I just like situational awareness, and I think Scott Turner lacks that. But we're not a semi-pro team, okay? But those were some really good games. It was compelling football. And it's games like Tennessee Pitt or Tennessee Buffalo that continue to hammer home the point. And I remember telling you guys, hey, watch the championship weekend and tell me what you think we're missing. And I told you it's the ability to quick strike. Like everything we do this year, same as last. And Heinicke, it's not for a lack of trying, but Heinicke is missing guys that are open that would be chunk plays. what part of the reason we fell in love with Heinicke last year is because as soon as he came in, we got chunk plays. We're back to now not getting chunk plays and everything being a methodical, drag. Oh my God, here comes another 13-play drive if we're going to score a touchdown. The Ricky Seals-Jones touchdown was a breath of fresh air, almost didn't happen. But I know why you feel the way that you feel, because you saw teams that are, even though Seattle and Pittsburgh are 2-3 or were 2-3 in that game, you saw a level of desperation that I felt like we lacked in the second half of the game against the Chiefs. We needed to sustain the desperation that we had in the first half, but we didn't. See where we are. Johnny Boy 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, thoughts on Matt Corral, good fit for Washington. Like I said, I haven't watched him film-wise. I've watched Matt Corral for the last 2 years as the starting quarterback of Ole Miss. I like what I see. I told you he's, to me, the best quarterback in college football right now. Again, haven't watched Malik Willis or any of these other guys that people, start to throw at me. You should watch this guy. Okay. Eventually I'll get around to it. But just having watched Matt Corral at Ole Miss, I've seen some really good traits. I've also seen some things that will give you pause with him. But at the end of the day, I think he's a guy that is NFL, talented. Now the question is, can he put it all together and be consistent with it? So haven't watched enough of him to say if he's a great fit for Washington or not, but I like him. That's my preliminary assessment, is I like him. I could come back 3 months from now and be like, nah, I was wrong about Matt Corral. I'm not a big fan. But right now, I like him. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, lots of QB talk in the fan base right now. My thoughts are this. Ron needs to trade whatever and pay whatever to find his QB. If not, he will fail here. It may take a few swings and misses, but HR don't come unless you're swinging. So home runs don't come unless you're swinging. It's the old adage, can't make the shot you never take, right? So here's the thing. You say, it may take a few swings. I don't know if Ron gets a few swings. Like, how many swings and misses are you referring to here? Like, there are only so many times you get to swing and miss on quarterbacks before you get fired. Generally, if you swing and miss on one quarterback, you're gone, because that guy's going to set you back a minimum of 3 years, possibly up to 5. But I'm with you 110%. You give up whatever you got to give up to get a quarterback here. At this point, we see that it's a problem. It's a massive problem. And, Ron's plan, and somebody told me, hey, I need you to stop talking about Ron's plan. Why? Because you don't believe in it? I believe in it. Why would I stop talking about it? I'm not off of Ron's plan. I told you guys in the offseason, I remember having this exact same conversation with a lot of you, and you guys were all gung-ho then when there weren't any games being played. And I said, hey, keep this same energy during the season, because shit's going to go a lot differently than you think. Now, again, I was under the assumption, as many of you out there, that the defense would be fine. It would be the offense that would struggle. Either way, I was like, look, if you're Ron Rivera, it's going to be tough this year. And you got a first place schedule. You don't really know what you're going to get from the quarterback position. At the end of the day, it's not going to go as smoothly as you want. And I told the fan base this, but it's a part of the process. And as long as you see improvement in the areas that you needed to see it in, you're fine. Even if it meant taking a step back. I thought this defense would be better this year, but statistically worse than it was last year. Why? Because we were playing better competition. But I thought we would come out of this thing this year saying, hey, look, statistically, this defense is worse than it was last year. But man, This defense is better because of what they went through this year. Having saw Josh Allen and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, they're better off because of having seen those quarterbacks all in one season. Well, no, they're not, because they're getting their asses handed to them every single week, and they're not learning from their mistakes. So that's the thing that I couldn't foresee. You know what I mean? I just assumed that the defense would be the thing keeping us in ball games and that we'd have problems offensively. But at the end of the day, Ron is going to have to find his quarterback if he wants to be successful here. And if he doesn't find a quarterback here, he is going to end up getting fired, because as you can see, you can't win in this league consistently without a signal caller, without a guy that you can turn to each and every single week and know that this guy is going to give you a shot. Right now, we don't have that guy. We haven't had that guy since Kirk Cousins was here. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear that. It's the truth. Kirk Cousins was good. He's really good in Minnesota right now. And we don't have a guy. And until we do get one, we're going to have the same issues that we're having right now. Because some of these games, even though the defense was bad, with better quarterback play, we win the game. We beat the Saints with better quarterback play. I guarantee you, we beat the Saints with better quarterback play. I think we might have beat the Chiefs with better quarterback play, to be honest with you. If what I'm seeing continues throughout the game, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through the second quarter, if what I've seen in the first quarter and 2/3 is going to carry on throughout the rest of the game, we probably beat the Chiefs if we had better quarterback play. Guys got to help, and I said this on Studs and Duds. Guys got to help out the quarterback, though. Players got to help out the quarterbacks. Let's see. Enigma RJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Enigma RJ writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, Enigma?" He says, "It bothers me sometimes that we are a very young team. It's like we are constantly being bullied by the older brother until we grow up to be bullies ourselves." He said, "But it's not anything us fans can do about it." Well, that's part of being a young team, is that there's a lot of growing pains, a lot of mistakes. I talked about this as a fan of the Braves when they were the baby Braves, and the same thing with the Memphis Grizzlies. And I'm still in that process as a fan with the Grizzlies. We're a young team, one of the youngest teams in the NBA. And I told you, some games, some nights are maddening to watch because we'll have 21 turnovers. You can't win in the NBA with 21 turnovers. Are you crazy? And you're like, these are careless, stupid turnovers. Yet, because we're so young and we're so energetic, we overcome those turnovers because we're generating turnovers of our own, and we're getting out in transition, and we're running, and we're scoring baskets in transition, and we're up tempo and high energy. Remember, the Grizzlies used to be the slowest team in the league in terms of tempo per possessions per game, right? Like, we weren't getting up and down and running. That's no longer the case. Any Grizzlies game, you can catch us scoring $127 without overtime. That's nothing for us anymore. Used to be a problem. Like, if we scored over 110, shit, we had a hell of a night because we were slogging it up and down and we wanted to get into half court. But we would turn it over so much as a young team, and we're still turning it over because we're still a young team. But it's a part of the process. It's a part of the growing pains. It's a part of what you do. It was so fun to watch the Grizzlies go in the play-in tournament, the play-in games, beat San Antonio, overcome some adversity there. We were up big early. We blew that lead. You're thinking it's veteran Spurs team. They got some young players too, but they had some veteran players. They were gonna find a way to beat us. And we're like, no, we were in this situation last year in the bubble against Portland, and we blew it. We know what to do. And then to see that in the next game on the road at Golden State, down in that game late, rally back, tie it, send it to overtime, and overcome adversity, win it in overtime on the road against Steph Curry and company. The reason you're able to do that is because you learn from those mistakes as a young ball club and you get better. And that's what I was hoping to see early in the season. The thing that's frustrating me is that we're not we're not getting better. We're not improving based off of the mistakes being made. Montez Sweat was lining up off sides like that in his rookie season. I shouldn't still see you lining up like that in year 3. Like, it's one thing if your helmet is barely in the neutral. This brother's shoulder pads was in the neutral zone. Like, bro, what are you looking at? And the crazy part is, it looks, and he might not have been, because you don't have peripheral vision. I've said this. If you've never worn a helmet, then you can't relate. But if you've worn a helmet before, a football helmet, there's no peripheral vision, okay? You can't see out of the side view. You've got to turn your entire head to be able to see what the hell is happening. So when a guy doesn't see a player coming to ear hole them, or if a quarterback doesn't see a player that's just outside of his vision and he throws it, he's like, how does he not see that guy? He was right there. He can't see that guy. He's got tunnel vision. I don't know. His head looked like it was turned towards the ball, but maybe it was just slightly turned and he couldn't see the ball. He just was way off sides. That can't happen on 3rd and 10, bruh. Not 3rd and 10. Shouldn't happen at all. No less 3rd and 10. Same mistakes. Blowing coverage in the same manner that you blew it the week prior. That shit is frustrating. So I'm not seeing the growth from this team. All you can do is hope that the light switch comes on and we start to see it. But it does feel like we're being bullied. And until we decide that we're no longer going to be bullied by the bully, we're going to keep getting our lunch money taken. As a wise man once said to me, no, I don't want to give you my lunch money. At some point, you got to stand up for yourself. Right now, we're not standing up for ourselves. We tried against the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs slapped us in our face, and we got scared. We tucked our tails between our legs, and we ran home. The first sight of trouble, we ran home. All right. Got another one from Enigma RJ. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Enigma RJ writes, however, with that being said, I witnessed 2 Super Bowls with this team. I've seen all the good and bad from Steve Spurrier to Ron, and I believe in Ron's plan. Just wish he would show that bad play calling bothered him too. I don't know if he feels like it's bad play calling. And I'm going to tell you, Scott Turner's play calling isn't bad. I just told you it's situational awareness that bothers me with him. And maybe some of this is a personnel thing. Like, he doesn't trust any of his backs in a 3rd and 2 situation to put their shoulder down and get 2 yards. Maybe that's it. And if that's the case, I sort of get that, but I don't. But at the end of the day, just know your personnel, know who you're playing against, have a better feel and rhythm of the game, and understand what needs to be done. And again, I think I said this on the podcast, or I might have said this on Studs and Duds, whatever the case may be. Ron has to do a better job of communicating if he did not communicate to Scott Turner that, hey, Scott, this is 4-down territory. And maybe Ron wasn't thinking it was 4-down territory. Obviously, he didn't go for it on 4th and 6. But if it's 4th and 2, maybe Ron does go for it, right? You gotta communicate that to your offensive coordinator. Say, hey, this is 2-down territory. You got 2 downs to get 2 yards. So approach it however you like. If you tell an offensive coordinator you got 2 downs to get 2 yards, don't you think the first of those 2 plays is going to be a run? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. If my head coach hit me on the headset and said, hey, Louie, 3rd and 2, just to let you know, hey, this is 4-down territory. So you play it how you want to play it, but you got 2 downs to get 2 yards. All right, coach. Thanks. Appreciate that. I hear that. All right, I'm sending in my run call. Because I know if I don't pick it up, whether they stole me at the line of scrimmage and it's 4th and 2, or I get 1 yard and it's 4th and 1, or I pick up the first down, I know I got another shot. What I'm not going to do is throw the ball laterally, okay, and have it go backwards because my quarterback is throwing off platform and doesn't have a strong arm, and then have my receiver have to go down, dig it out of the turf, and lose 4 yards, and now it's 4th and 6. That's what I'm not going to do. It's Ron's plan, and it's good to hear that you're with it because I know a lot of guys that aren't with it. John Perez, my guy JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy JP writes, Lou, at some point, Rivera needs to acknowledge that they need a quarterback and that drafting one is top priority this offseason. Been saying it all year. He can't do that in season, John. What's the benefit to the quarterbacks currently on the roster? So imagine this. You're Taylor Heinicke. Put yourself in Taylor Heinicke's shoes. You're preparing for Green Bay this week. And you step up to the podium, because this is what reporters do. They blindside you with shit. Taylor Heinicke doesn't know what Ron just said, 10 minutes before he got out there. He sits down. He's got his little graphic tee on or his little hoodie on. You got your little hoodie on. You're feeling good about practice that you just had, thinking about, man, this is going to be a dream come true playing at Lambeau Field. I've been there once before with my dad. We grew up watching the Packers together. I love this game because of Brett Favre. And this is going to mean the world to me playing as a starter. I've been to Lambeau once as a player in street clothes with the Vikings, but I'm actually the starting quarterback of the opposing team. This is going to be awesome. And the first question you get is, hey, Ron Rivera sat where you sat just 10 minutes ago, and he said that this team's biggest need in the offseason is quarterback and that they're currently evaluating quarterbacks for the next season in 2022. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you do with that information if that's you? Why would Ron acknowledge that we need a quarterback right now? Who does that help? Nobody. So why would he do it? Doesn't make any sense, John. Internally, they may be saying to themselves, we got to get a quarterback. You don't outwardly disclose that information. That doesn't even help you after the season's over in the draft. If I know you need a quarterback and you've been talking about it all season and you need to come up, I'm going to bust you in the head because I know you're desperate. You don't ever show your hands. It's poker, especially when you need a quarterback. It's poker. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Metaphor writes, wonder if Ron had to force Landon, force the Landon plan on JDR. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think JDR was probably the one that told him, look, man, Landon's killing us in the back end. He's best around. Everybody knows where Landon's best at. Even Landon knows he's best suited to be around the line of scrimmage. I don't think Landon is interested in taking on, 200, and 60-pound fullbacks in the hole, or, 315-pound pulling guards, or he's not looking forward to taking on a double team, coming off of the second, first level, and that guard, climbing up to the second level to get a piece of him. I don't think he wants any parts of that. When you're a safety, you get to come down the alley clean. Everyone's on a body, and all you got to do is navigate your way through the traffic. Worst case scenario, you're dealing with a receiver, or a tight end. Worst case scenario, a tight end, but more likely than not, you're dealing with a receiver. You're fine. I don't think he wants any parts of, having to fight through guards and centers and tackles and fullbacks, but that's about to be his new existence in his defense. And I want to see what this role looks like for him and how he fits into it. Let's see if we got any more supers. JB Johnson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JB Johnson writes, Cam Newton would have been at least 3-3. Maybe not. I can't confirm nor deny that. Do we win the game against Atlanta or the Giants with Cam Newton at quarterback? We could have easily lost those games with Cam Newton at quarterback. Could have won them. I don't know. Maybe we beat the Saints. Maybe we don't. I can't say what he would or wouldn't have been. I just don't think Cam Newton's best football exists anymore. I think that's gone. And I think that's why Ron hasn't bothered to go and sign him either, because I don't think that they feel like there's a lot left in that tank. So that's the last super chat. Thank you guys for joining me on the show tonight. Greatly appreciate you guys. I know a lot of rumors are swirling around as to what this team is or isn't going to do. We'll see what happens. There's a lot going on right now with this team. New kicker, Landon Collins, moving to the linebacker position. Are we going to trade for Tua? Highly unlikely. JP Finley says the sources he's talked to say it's BS. I tend to believe that. I don't think they're going to make a move at this point of the season. I don't even think the Dolphins are going to pull the trigger, even though it seems like talks are intensifying. If you listen to John McCain of the Houston Chronicle, who is really dialed into that football team, he says talks are intensifying. Something's going to get done. Even if something gets done between those two teams, I don't think we're going to be in it. I remember when Ron was asked about Tua during that 2020 draft process, he said, yeah, I talked to Tua, but talking to Tua means I talked to Tua. Like, there was really no interest in him. They were just doing their due diligence. I don't think they were ever really, truly interested in acquiring Tua Tagovailoa. So, for whatever it's worth, I don't think Washington's in on Tua. It's a pipe dream. And, you know, just for a few hours as a Washington fan, you can dream about having a quarterback. But I don't think that gets solved until the offseason. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if we do get a quarterback in the offseason and he's not a veteran with chops, it's probably going to be one of these quarterbacks in the draft. And it could get ugly, man. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Either way. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me on Washington Football Nightly. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. You guys have been awesome, as you always are. Tomorrow, we will turn our attention fully to the Green Bay Packers and start talking about what it'll take to get it done against them. We'll take our first look at the Packers. We'll talk about what went down at practice. We'll hear from the coordinators tomorrow, Jack Del Rio and Scott Turner, see what they have to say about the happenings of the week, what transpired last week, and what things they can do to have this team perform at a much higher level, and any other things that are pertinent with the burgundy and gold. We will discuss those things tomorrow on the show. Until then, you guys take care. God bless, and good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's